Welcome back to part two of the Wealth and Health episode with Karen Martel. How's it going today, Serge?
Oh, not too bad. How are you, Marco?
Oh, not too bad. What another exciting episode we have for you today, guys.
Yeah, part two. I'm very excited for this. I'm excited to dig into the business part of this episode. But first, as usual, we're going to dig into some business news that I found. And before I do, we just want some feedback. Do you guys like that we start off the podcast with some business news and that we chat about it? Do you guys want us to just jump right into the podcast? So just, if you don't mind leaving us a comment either on Facebook or wherever you're listening, or, on YouTube or wherever, send us an email. Let us know if you like this. So first business news that I have was something I read the other day, and it was about Tim Hortons. So if you're from Canada, you know very well what Tim Hortons is.
Our president.
What's that?
That's our president.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. If you're from the States or other parts of the world, you may or may not know it. But for those of you who don't, Tim Hortons for the longest time was, a very, very popular coffee and donut shop here in Canada with tons of locations everywhere. But a few years back, now I can't exactly tell you the exact number of years back, but a while back, they were bought out by the same investors group as Burger King. So, and I think they're a Brazilian investors group. And a fun little fact here is actually a majority of that investors group is actually owned by Berkshire Hathaway, which, if for those of you who don't know who Berkshire Hathaway is, that is that's Warren Buffett's the absolute investment guru. I mean, the guy's like an investment god. It's his investment. It's his business, and it's kind of his investment business. So they own majority of Burger King. G2 owns Burger King and also bought out Tim Hortons, as you know, Marco.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So an interesting fact is Tim Hortons actually, it was one of the fastest dropping, I guess, popularity here in Canada out of fast food chains. So I guess I didn't really word that very well, but as an example, it went from basically top 5, maybe number 5 of best fast food chains here in Canada. And within a year, dropped down to 50.
Oh, Jesus, that's unreal.
50th, yeah, huge. And I think that was one of the fastest. I think it was a record.
I wouldn't doubt it. That's a huge drop, 45 spots. And I mean, I've never been much of a coffee drinker myself, but I've always noticed how popular that Tim Hortons was back in the day. But yeah, you're right. I've noticed those lines are definitely a lot shorter than they have been.
Yeah, and rumor has it they changed up their coffee because they had a lot of really good coffee. I don't know if this is true or not. I heard that McDonald's might have taken that recipe.
Yeah, I heard that too. I heard they had switched up the recipe, alternated it a little bit, and then McDonald's had purchased the original rights to their original recipe, and that's kind of why they're more popular now, I believe.
Absolutely. McDonald's coffee actually got a lot better when they started promoting their McCafe. It got a lot better. I really like it.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I'm not much of a coffee drinker, but when I do drink it, it's usually McDonald's.
Yeah. And it's funny because Tim Hortons has this little thing, and it's another thing I read in this article. Tim Hortons has this little thing where they roll up the rim to win, right? So, for those of you who don't know what it is, you roll up the rim of the cup, and there's either a win prize, a win, like if you win, there's a free donut or a free coffee, or you can win up to like a car or a barbecue. Like there's some pretty big prizes. So every time Tim Hortons does that roll up rim to win, you'll notice that McDonald's is giving away free coffee.
Yeah, and then as soon as that roll up to the rim is done, we get the McDonald's $1 coffees and the McDonald's Monopoly.
Yeah,
it seems like they're just beat strategically. It's pretty ingenious.
Yeah, they're a big company. They're ran really well. So Tim Hortons, and the reason I bring this up is actually not the news. Tim Hortons just opened up their first location in China. And if you look it up, I mean, people were lined up camping outside in the middle of the night to line up to go get a Tim Hortons coffee in the morning. So this was, I believe, in Shanghai. It was the first ever location. So Tim Hortons has now come out and said they're going to open up 10 new locations. The wrong number. 1,500 new locations in the next 10 years in China alone. So they're tapping into that market.
Jesus, whoever's their marketing specialist, they want to give us some tips because yeah, that's just pure genius. I mean, if you look at the population in China, and when you get that big of a hit on your first restaurant, 1,500 additional restaurants probably pays for itself.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing that the article was saying is that, in China, they really love anything that's Western. And it was the same idea when Starbucks opened up there, right? So, everybody in China's seen Starbucks in the movies and they see all the commercials. And then so when they opened that up, it was huge. So Tim Hortons is doing the same thing and just opening 1,500 restaurants. I think that accounts for something like 30% of all their restaurants. And that's not an exact number, but it was close.
Jeez. I mean, I guess you can't blame them. I mean, when the going's good, the going's good, right?
Exactly. So, pretty interesting news. I thought that was really cool. Another thing that I came up across. So last week, we had talked about some of the store closures that were announced, and one of them being J.C. Penney. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
So J.C. Penney on Friday, which so that's basically tomorrow or the day that this podcast airs, we'll be ending a clothing subscription service venture, and basically has closed down a bunch of stores, as we mentioned, right? They closed down, I think it was like something like probably hundreds or even thousands of stores, and really reduced the amount of employees they had. But they've also canceled one of their low clothing subscription things, ventures that they did, that they started in December of 2017. So only, I guess 3 years later or whatever that is, 2 years later, they're already, there's signs of it, the hard times to come for these guys.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's why they're closing down their stores. I mean, it makes complete sense, but, with business, no risk, no reward, right? I mean, sometimes you have to trial these things and find out the hard way that it's not the best strategy.
Yeah. And the first thing they said on the article, it goes, J.C. Penney struggling to maintain sales as more shoppers move online. I mean, there you go. So I don't want to get we talked about a lot of that last episode, so I don't want to get too far into that. But yeah, that's basically the news I got for you this week.
Right on. Well, let's not take up much more time, like you said, and let's get right into part 2.
Welcome to the Wealth Project Podcast. Join us as we take the journey from employee to entrepreneur. Now your hosts, Sergio Suarez and Marcos Suarez.
So I guess I'd like to start by asking you, and you've kind of answered this before when you're in your introduction, but what was your I know your motivation behind this starting an online business was basically to help people, and it was your own health. Was that the only reason, or were there other reasons behind starting your online business?
Going online wasn't something I had originally planned to do. And then once I started, the school that I went to, really taught me about the online world. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is what I need to be doing. And slowly started to get into it. And the more I got into it, the more I realized how much I loved it. Like it just played on my creative side, like the creation of online programs and even marketing. Like I realized, wow, I have a real knack for this. And I really enjoy creating these things and what it all consists of, and just the whole getting the word out there and marketing the right way so that people can hear you, and creating this culture of women that I can help. All of it really fascinated me. And so it propelled me forward doing it. Right. And it was, yes, of course I wanted to help people, and that's why I originally got into it. But it was funny because it started to be like, oh, actually, I really love the business aspect of it.
Right. And one thing we always, we've mentioned in previous episodes, it's amazing the amount of freedom you have with online business.
Yes. And I've always worked for myself. So it was like, there was no way I was going to go into, working for anybody or a 9-to-5 job or whatever. I knew I wanted to work for myself. So I've always had that freedom and I wasn't going to give it up. So that
Right.
definitely was a driving factor for sure.
So just by visiting your website, going more into the business side again, I noticed that you blog and you coach, and you mentioned earlier that you had your own podcast as well. When it comes to business models, are these what you use the most, or is there anything else that you're doing?
So as I said, I've recently dropped the coaching because 2 years ago I actually started a membership group, and that has really taken off. And so that is probably my biggest generator now of income is the membership group. And so I mean, it was balanced before with the coaching, but I realized I can help so many more people if I grow my membership than I do with my one-on-one coaching, because it just, it's one-on-one. So my focus changed. And so now my main income is now coming from membership site.
So what do you mean, like a membership, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure. Because memberships are actually becoming very popular right now. So I decided 2 years ago that I needed a place that my clients could go to after they were done coaching with me, where they were out of that place of they didn't need one-on-one anymore, but they still wanted the meal plans. They still wanted to be in touch with me and ask me little questions, but they didn't want to pay for a full session. So I thought, I'm going to start a membership group that my clients could just go into after they're done coaching with me. And so I started it with that intention, and then basically started to grow it. And so it started out as just meal planning, and I did some group coaching in it. So every week they had the choice of, and they still do, you have the choice every week of a keto, paleo, or autoimmune paleo meal plan. So the three most popular primal diets. Every week there's new recipes. And then bi-weekly, I do group coaching sessions over Zoom. And then there's a whole bunch more to it. And it's also why I started my video cast, was because I wanted to interview other professionals so I could give free education to my clients as part of their membership. So it all kind of came together, and I started doing it, and it started to grow and grow, and I started to add to it. And then I started putting programs inside the membership. So people pay a monthly fee. They pay, right now it's at this airing, it's $35 a month. They pay that monthly fee to have their meal plan sent to them every week. They get the bi-weekly coaching sessions with me. They get the private Facebook forum, and then and then they get access to all of my online programs inside the membership, which there's a bunch now.
Well, that's great. So that's the reoccurring income is that's a different way of looking at it. I like that.
Yeah, and so it's great. It's a lot of work. Like you always have to be on it.
Right.
You can just set it up and then, push the forget button, unlike programs, right? If you sell an online program, then it's sold, it's a one-off. You don't ever have to think about it. But membership, you're really having to commit to being on it all the time. Basically.
Right. So, I mean, the work is reoccurring as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So because it sounds really like, oh, this is such a good idea. Some people are paying her every month, and this is what she has to do. And it's like, wow, actually, there's so much to it.
Yeah.
Way more than I anticipated, to be honest. Way more than I anticipated.
So it's like managing your own little community kind of gig.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you kind of spoke on my next question a little bit, and that's one way you monetize your business. Are there any other ways that you monetize your business?
So I have a podcast, I have a video cast, I've got the group coaching program. I'm on a lot of other podcasts, which definitely help grow my business, probably more than anything. Like that's how I get a lot of exposure, as I am asked to be on a lot of health podcasts and summits. Right. And that's really helped expand my clientele. Like most of my clients are now coming from the United States. So nice. About 80% of them are, and that's all due to me being a guest on another podcast. So that's really, really helped grow the business for sure. But yeah, those are the main things.
So and that's one thing that I've read a lot about in getting started with online business is, maybe going out and finding some people that are, influencers, and either being on their podcast or having them on your podcast. And it's a great way to kind of promote your own business.
It really is. Yes. Yeah. And it's hard. I mean, you have to knock on a lot of doors in the beginning.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true.
I remember when I first started, it was my first year, and this woman found me and she got a hold, and we're doing a weight loss summit. I've been looking at your stuff. You're a perfect fit. Let's do this. And I'm like, whoa, oh my gosh. Yeah. Like so excited. And I'm like, I can't believe this. She sets up a call with me. We talk, I'm not kidding you, for 45 minutes. And she tells me all about the summit. She's telling me every little detail. We're setting up the interview for when it's actually going to get recorded. And she says, oh, and I should ask, how many subscribers do you have? And me being totally new to all of this, I was like, oh, geez, I think I have like 100. Right? I was like, not thinking. I had no idea what normal was or what they would be looking for. And she instantly said, oh, I'm sorry, this isn't going to work.
Wow.
It was horribly rude. It was like, I couldn't even believe that she wasted my time that much. And then she said, we require 5,000 minimum.
Wow.
I just, what I felt like telling her. And I was like, wow, that's absolutely horrible. And so now I actually make sure I never ask anybody that question when they're a guest on my show. I've had people that have 0 followers, and I have them on my show because they have good content, and I know they do. Right. And so, starting out, when you're going and you're knocking on all those doors, you're going to get a lot of people that will ask you those questions. How many subscribers do you have? How many downloads do you have? And when you're just starting out, you can't be like, well, I think we've got 10 people last week. Like, who's going to want to be on your? So I'm not saying lie about it, but you're just going to get those people. So just expect that, and you can decide how you want to deal with it, basically.
Right. So I guess this my next question is actually related to size. Is your business, and not just your podcast, but your business all around, is that are you, in terms of size, are you where you want to be?
No. I plan to keep going. I wish I could say yes, and I constantly tell myself, this is good. We've got a lot of good things happening here. We make good money. This is awesome. But it's like I have this like invisible driving force that's pushing me from behind at all times, and it's not letting up. So as much as I try to slow down, then I'm like, oh, I know what I'm going to do next. And then boom, I'm doing a whole new project, and I'm working all day long every day. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, come on. But I have a vision, and I can see where it's going, and I've only scratched the surface.
Right. And it seems like it's never enough, right? I mean, you always, like you said, even with us, we're just getting started, but there's like a million things that we want to do. And sometimes you got to step back and be like, all right, let's tackle one thing at a time.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's the creative mind in us, right? It's like, you can't just, it's why we're in this. Like, we love to be creative and create new things and new content. And so if that starts to die down, it's like, oh, this is boring. Like, you have to keep that going. It's why we're entrepreneurs, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. So no, I've only scratched the surface, and I would like to, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not saying financially I do really well. I just want to reach more people is what
absolutely. The more people you can help, the better, right?
Yeah. And great that more money comes with it, because then I can help.
It's a good added bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, because I've, when I listen to a lot of business podcasts myself, because I'm a huge podcast fan, and a lot of these business podcasts say that, do what you love, and the result will be money. Like, you'll get paid to it. If you're in it for making money, you're probably not going to do as well as if you're in it to help people first. Then just money is a result.
Yes. And I think there has to be a balance between, because I disagree that it can only be because you're passionate about what you're doing.
That is
true.
You
also have to make the money, or you're not going to do it for very long.
That's
right.
True.
So it's really good to, when you're first starting out, to identify what you are. Are you the artist, which is the creative person that wants to help everybody? Are you the entrepreneur that's in it just to make the money? Or are you in it because you're a really good manager or a leader and you want to lead people, right?
Right.
And you might have all of those to some extent, or little bits of, but there's one that's going to be prominent that you're going to know right away when I say that what you are. So what are you guys?
I like to think I'm the artist. I really enjoy the blogging part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually not sure. That's a good question, but I'm not sure. That's something I got to figure out.
That's something we'll have to self-reflect on a little bit more later. But
you probably are one of the other ones, because usually people will be brought together because you play off of each other, right? Somebody's going to be stronger in one area than the other person. So if you're an artist and you're like, oh, I just want to be creative and I just want to help people and blog and make these graphics all the time, then you're going to have to realize really quickly that you're going to have to hire somebody then to run your business as an entrepreneur, because you're not going to make any money. Because unfortunately, being creative is not enough right now in this world.
Yeah, and you're right, because me and Marco both, like I said, Marco mentioned that he's more of maybe the creative side. He's good at writing the blog posts. He's good at doing the websites and stuff like that. And me, I'm more of I like to market it. I'm the one that likes to put it out there. I like to make those Facebook advertisements, or do the Facebook ads, the paid advertisement, and all that. So yeah, we do balance each other out quite well.
Yeah, that's
how the interview switched.
That's
right.
Now you got us thinking.
I like that. Yeah.
Well, it's good, because your listeners will then be like, oh, wait a sec. Okay, I need to think about this, right? Because that's going to make you or break you in your business. Is if you, honest to God, if you're just a creative mind and you're not looking at the numbers and you're not going, okay, what do I need in order to make money on this business? You're going to fail. It's a matter of time. You can't just sit back and think you can be creative and this nice person that wants to help everybody, because it's just not enough right now.
I'd have to agree. And I'm glad you brought that up, because, even though when I did hear, you got to, think of your passion first and money comes as a result, you can't help but always think about making money. That's part of what you're in it to do it. Not only are you in it to help people, but you're in it to make money as well. So I like that you that's a good way of putting it. You need to balance it. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fair enough. So let's touching back on the how you said you just scratched the surface of where you want to be in terms of size for your own business. What are some of the strategies that you're using right now?
Yes. So I've kind of switched gears with my strategies recently. So I'm definitely, the podcast is huge for me right now, because I just started it back in the fall. I've been doing the video cast for 2 years, but I have only just put everything into a podcast. And I really feel like that's my best strategy as far as growing my business, because one of the best things you can do right now to grow your business is to provide really good content, right? There's so much online right now, and we're being bombarded by so much stuff. So it's about finding your unique voice, and then and being the expert on certain topics, and then getting that content to your listeners and to your perfect client, right? In order to build your culture. And you always have to be kind of thinking in that headspace of innovation and culture, and let's start building our own tribe and giving these people what they need right now. And so that's my focus. And so we tend, as creative people, is we want to create things that we ourselves like. And I've definitely found that I was falling into that trap. It was like, oh, well, I'm going to do this because this is what I want to know about and be creative. And I was like, wait a sec, but this isn't what my followers are telling me they need right now. So I started to create new programs. I'm just running one right now. It starts tomorrow. And it's called Intro to Keto for Women's Hormone Health. In the past, I've just done Intro to Keto, where I go through a 2-week program with people online and teach them about the ketogenic diet. And I was like, you know what? This market is saturated right now. I need to shift, because the people that follow me, the women that follow me, they all have hormone dysfunction. So I thought I have to teach women about their hormones. So I'm doing a 3-week program. It's sold out. It was amazing how well it sold. And all I did was run a $20 ad on Facebook every day, and then we'll send out to my email subscribers. So that's like, it doesn't have to take a lot. Do you know what I mean? But if you niche down, what you're doing. I think that that's super important. Like, don't just be, if you're going to put an online program out there, don't be like, how to do Facebook ads. It's like, no, how to do Facebook ads if you're a female entrepreneur working with blah, 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 like niche down so far. And I think
Get
that's
specific.
yeah, like it's so right when you think you're specific enough, go more specific.
Really?
Fair
Really,
enough.
because
I like
you
that.
have to stand out. You have to stand out right now. So if you don't, you're going to be swimming with a million other people.
You're right, and it's like especially our niches. I mean, health and business are very saturated.
Extremely, it's painful, like painful. So you have to find your voice so that people connect with you. You got to bring them the content that's specific to that need. Give them what they want. And I think that like as soon as I started doing that, it brought it up to another level. And it's like, wow, now I got to continue doing this. And so my plan right now is just to start running bi-weekly webinars which I've never done before, on really specific topics. So my first one's going to be, I think it's next week, but it's going to be on insulin resistance and losing weight. And I'm going to niche that down somehow. But basically, it'll be like a 1 hour webinar where I'll teach some women how to hack their weight by getting their insulin in check, and what they can do from home. And so it'll have a different twist on it. But I'm just going to start running these and then getting people into my membership through the webinar, and just doing it, like taking action on it. I think that that's another really key point is we get very lost as business owners. And you guys might find this too, is learning things, listening to the podcast, taking the programs. Oh, look, I should probably do this. I need to learn how to make videos. Oh, I need to learn how to do a funnel. Oh, I need to know how to grow an email list. And you sign up for all these different things, and you're just in this learning process. And it's great. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for all those things that I did. But there got to be a time where I had to say, enough learning, start doing and start taking action. Because the learning keeps us avoiding what actually needs to be done.
Right.
That's absolutely fair. And I like the way that you said that. And it's something that we touch on. We say it at every episode is creating value. And then you mentioned about when you create that value, you got to create it specifically for other people. And that's something that we felt guilty of in our first couple of episodes of the podcast, is we wanted to target specifically what we wanted to know. And so that's why we kind of transitioned out into what other people might be interested in. So I like the way that you put that for us.
Yeah, like listen to what the people are saying. And I think that that's so important. Like, what are these people wanting to know about? Like for me, I got asked all day long about hormones. And so I was like, okay, I need to niche down and be more about the hormones than anything else that I was doing. And I was way too broad before. And when I was really broad, I wasn't seeing the income. I wasn't seeing the results like I am now.
Right. So when it comes to business, what would you say are some of the most common reasons people fail or give up?
It gets hard, right? Like you think you're going into business and you're going to work for yourself and it's going to be so easy. And I've never worked this hard in my entire life. Honest to God, I've never worked this much. And it's, I went all the other way where I was not getting balance at all. Now I'm pulled back, but my family life suffered, my marriage suffered because I was hands-on 24/7 on my business, trying to grow it. And most people would have quit a long time ago if they were doing what I was doing, because it was so much work. And I think that a lot of people will be like, well, look I'm working freaking 12-hour days from the time I get out to the time I go to bed. And what do I have to show for it? And how long can you keep going like that for? Right. And so most people will give up before they turn the corner. Right. And I think that you have to remember why you got into it in the first place. And you have to just give it time. It doesn't happen overnight. This market is saturated. Online market period is saturated. Yeah. And it's only going to get worse. The good thing is more people are going to be online. However, it's, you have to work really hard to stand out. And so it's not for the weak of people. Like, you got to be strong and you got to be able to get through. There's times where I've cried to my husband going, are you kidding me? Like, how am I not making any money from this business yet? Like, I have put so much blood, sweat, and tears into it. And what do I see for it? Like, nothing. And he just can't, thank God, he's so great. He's like, I don't doubt that you're going to be a success. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay. I'm doubting right now.
It's hard not to. It's hard not to when you're working so hard and not seeing any results yet, right?
Yeah.
It is.
It's years. It's years and years. Some people make it big, like overnight, but very, very rare. And if you listen to any of the big wigs, they're out there making 7 figures on an online business, they will all tell you they went through the phase of being broke for years, wondering, going into the red constantly, or borrowing money, whatever it is that they had to do. They all went through that. It wasn't overnight success. It was, holy, how can I keep this going? Are you serious? And then suddenly it starts to build upon itself. Right. And so you have to be patient, and you got to be super strong, and you got to be smart about it.
So for our listeners who are wondering and are interested in getting into an online business and wondering, that timeline, are you that you mentioned here, you're saying it's good. It takes years to develop that kind of monetization and start making money, or is it maybe a year, or like, how does that?
It was probably a year, 2 years before I started to like make money, not even make money, just break even. Like, okay, I'm living off of the money I'm making. I'm not saving anything, but I'm living off of it, and I'm able to put some back into the business.
Oh, okay. So that's doing it full time.
Exactly. Like, I never went into debt or anything, but I wasn't making profit, right? For the first few years. And then this is my 5th year. So I would say it wasn't till last year I doubled my income. So it wasn't till last year that things just took off. So it was a good, 3-4 years before that happened. But average, I would say 4 years before most people will start to see it. But I mean, that could be different for everybody, right? Like I said, you may just have the golden ticket and have some great product that everybody loves, or have this great personality that just, or you might have money to back you to get yourself out there. I didn't. I had no money. I had no investors. It was me. And it was like, I had to go on these really slow increments of, okay, I'm going to put a little bit of money towards Facebook ads, and I'll do this and I'll do that, right? Like, all of these things cost money, and it costs money to get yourself out there. So it's like, how much can you afford and at what time? So, and it's up to each person individually.
Yeah. And I think that's the way most people start off is with little or no money. I mean, that's, if you're doing it, because if you're making a lot of money, you're doing it to transition to another passion, then yeah, you're right. Maybe that can happen a little quicker for you. But most people get into business because they want to, they want to do something that they love, and B, maybe make more money than they are currently, right? Because some people get stuck, in their 9-to-5s, and they have nowhere to really expand to grow to, right? So. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
What it ultimately comes down to is what I say every podcast, or Serge even mentions it every other podcast, is that you should just never give up, because too many people quit right as they're about to plateau and reach that success.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a thing that I say in my head that came from the Screw the 9-to-5 podcast. Do you guys listen to that one?
No,
I've not heard of that one. No.
Oh, no. Oh, gosh. It's great. It's one of my favorite business podcasts.
Okay.
And she said on one of her podcasts, she says, your success is inevitable if you're working that hard. And I was like, yeah. And so every time I'm feeling down and out, I just tell myself, your success is inevitable. And I really feel like that. I feel like if I'm putting this time in and I keep working at it, my success is inevitable. Like, it just is. And I believe that for some reason. And, I got, for a period of time, and I thought I should mention this, is, I don't know if you guys are into like law of attraction. Are you into that at all?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've read the book. Law. What's the book again? Oh my goodness, The Secret. Yeah.
like I've always been a believer in that kind of stuff, and always about the energy stuff. And I've, the last couple of years being in my own business, I kept thinking like I just had to manifest. And if I wasn't getting the money, it meant that I had an energy block and it was my fault. And I had an epiphany last year where I was like, just at Christmas time, I was like, screw the law of attraction. This is not, it's not true. And I was like, this is what every person has to go through. In most cases, it's hard, and it's way better to think, it's just, this is part of life, than thinking that I'm doing this wrong thing or putting out the wrong energy and not manifesting right. Like, I believe, of course, you have to have good energy to have good stuff happen and all that, but not to that extent of I'm creating everything. Right. And it's just, it's like, when I let go of that, for some reason, it just transformed everything for me. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Every person goes through this. And I started to hear it everywhere, where all these entrepreneurs all had the same story, which was they all went through this period of time where they were like, I have no money, things suck. Like, am I going to be able to do this? Can I succeed? They weren't thinking positive thoughts.
Right.
And now they're a 7-figure business.
And just
keep they
going.
don't see that was the answer, that they changed, they did a new dream board, and next thing you know, they have 7-figure. No, it was blood, sweat, and tears.
Right.
Right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, just don't find the excuses. The excuse is that it's just, sometimes it takes some time, and that you just have to keep working at what you're doing. And if something's not working, do something else.
Right. And I mean, mentality is very much part of it, but you're right. You have to know when it's you stop making excuses and just keep going at it, and it'll happen for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, huge.
So what are some and you've kind of touched on this a little bit, but what are some of the hurdles you faced with your business so far?
Definitely standing out amongst the noise.
Yeah.
And I talked about that, but definitely that was something that brought me down. And the whole imposter syndrome, like, well, who am I compared to all these like smarty doctors that are out there talking about hormones or whatever it was. And it just was like, I had to get over that, right? Get over the imposter syndrome and stand out amongst the crowd. So that was huge. The financial piece, because I'm not an entrepreneur, kind of in the sense of the numbers, that was a huge hurdle for me, was just looking at my books, looking at the numbers, going, okay, how much did this program make? What did I make last year compared to this year? Like, doing the comparisons. Like, I'm not a numbers person. I hate math. I would do my books at the end of the year kind of thing. Like, I just didn't watch them. I didn't care. It was like, and now I changed all of that, where I'm like fanatical about it now, where I watch everything. So I know that what my efforts are, if they're paying off or not, where should I, monetize on them, like if something works, well, then I need to put more money into that for Facebook ads next time.
Right.
Like, just really being careful about where the money's going and what's bringing in the income and what isn't. Right. That was a huge hurdle for me. And I think that a lot of people, because they're the creative, like, I'm just going to go out there and make my things, and I don't care about the money. And it's like, well, you need to care about the money. And I realized that. It was a huge mistake on my part. I really think so. So that was a big one for me. Balancing between the family and work and having a life, right? Like, I can't help people if I'm not taking care of myself. And so that's an ongoing struggle all the time, where I'm just making sure I take care of my own body and my own health problems, and, spending time with my family and things like that it's huge. So if you're not careful, that can really bring a person down, I think, if you're not going to balance that out, right? Don't take advantage of those people around you.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. And that ties in with what I was going to ask you next. Like, when you're operating a business, and you said it earlier, it's time consuming. You can spend so much time, especially at the beginning. It takes all your time. Are there any tips that you have for anybody wanting to just start out a business on how you can create that balance between work and everyday life?
Yeah, I think it's important to time block. I don't know if you've heard of that, but where you very specifically times of the day are scheduled for certain things. And it's not like, 8 o'clock, 8 to 9. It's more like, okay, from this time in the morning is always when you do your email check, or this is, and everything really, as much as like I hate being a schedule person, I've realized more and more that I need to schedule more and more in the sense of, this is my gym time. No ifs, ands, or buts. Like you can't start moving it around because somebody wants in, for a coaching session. Like
Right.
you have to be very like strict with yourself as this is my gym time. At this time every month I go for my massage. I always stop work at 4 o'clock. And then, like from this time to this time, I'm with my children and my family. And if I need to get something done, it's not till after 8 o'clock at night or whatever it is. Like I have to stick to my own rules and I have to time block everything so that I know what I'm doing, or else, you can get lost in the whole like, oh, I'm going to sit here and scroll Facebook, or I'm going to answer emails for 3 hours. And then you're like, oh, where'd my day go? Like just that, just the uselessness of it all. And so just time blocking everything, including that balance with your family, I think is key, and going on vacation with them or going away on trips and having that, that time where it might not be all the time, but it's quality time when you're there. You're connected, you're spending that time with them, where you're not on your phone and just separating it. And it's hard to do. It is. It's very hard.
I agree.
So
And it's easy to get distracted. It's easy to get, scrambled and yeah, time management is definitely very important for sure.
Yeah.
So would you recommend then having a schedule for planning your days?
Yes, I do. Yeah. And something that I learned in a program I think it was called Rapid Planning Program or something that I took. And it was like kind of at the beginning of your day, you decide what the outcome you want what outcome you want,
Mhm.
and that might just be something like super simple, like, what my outcome today is to finish that funnel. And so
Okay.
you set your priority right off the bat instead of your to-do list, right? To-do lists tend to not get looked at. And so it was more like, what is your outcome for the day? And then you make sure that outcome happens. And for some reason that really helped me with like, okay, if my outcome by the end of the week is to finish this video series, then I need to block this time, and this time out to do that in my weekday. I'll do emails this time of day, and then that'll be it. Like, that's all I'm going to have time for. Or else you get like, oh, I better do a Facebook ad, or, oh, I better go post on Instagram, or, oh, I better go check my website. Like, you can find a million things you have to do. Right. So trying to like that, I think helps for sure. I mean, when you get an assistant. I'm not quite there yet. I have one girl. That's good. She helps me out a lot, but
So,
Right on. Yeah.
so you're interested in getting maybe like a virtual assistant?
yes, eventually. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think I
eventually.
need to contract out quite a bit, and you'll get a lot of advice, I feel like, on business podcasts from these big time entrepreneur people that are like, you have to get your virtual assistant. You have to do this. You have to get that person. You have to get someone doing your Facebook ads. You have to, don't do that yourself. And I get that. Like, we shouldn't be the operators of our business. We should be the owner. But as you guys know, when you start out, who has money like that?
No, exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Fair enough.
thousands and thousands of dollars a month. I looked at someone doing just my Facebook ads. I hired somebody. It was
Yeah.
$1,200 for the month.
Wow.
And she did nothing that I couldn't do myself in a matter of minutes.
Right. I guess
Like, I
it's
was like,
just
what are you doing for me? I don't even get it. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't even create the ad.
yeah,
I
it's
had
just
to create the ad. Like,
right.
it was weird. But
Yeah,
who
there's
has
just certain little tasks like that like you said, Facebook ads. I mean, it takes 5 minutes to post an ad or come up with something. You don't need to hire out for that kind of stuff, right? It's
Yeah, like eventually, for sure, you should. Like, as soon
For
as you
sure.
have to, get help and start being just the owner, the creative mind that you're really good at, right? I really believe that's very strongly. But in the beginning, and that's probably a lot of your people are trying to like just start out as business owners. You have to wear a lot of different hats in the beginning, and
Yeah.
it's suck for a little bit.
But it's important to learn all the steps too, right? That way you know what to look for when you're trying to get that assistance.
Yeah.
And eventually, I mean, you can get to the point where you maybe get a little overwhelmed, and maybe it's okay to take assign a couple of little tasks to an assistant. But until you can afford that, sometimes you just got to do it yourself and just buckle up and go, right?
Yeah. And I do a lot of like Fiverr and Upwork stuff, like where if I run into something where I'm like right now I'm doing a quiz and I'm like, I don't want to do all this, like upload all the questions. So I've got someone on Fiverr. He's going to do it. Like, it's so easy to contract out. I did that when I first built my website and my landing pages. I went to Fiverr and they, for whatever it was, $20, they did it for me.
I
Like
absolutely love Fiverr.
there's
I love Fiverr.
Contract stuff that you can do now that's so easy to get done. Those little things that you don't need to spend your time on. It doesn't cost you a lot of money. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Fiverr is definitely an affordable way for you to get people to hire people to do these little tasks. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, some of them haven't worked out, but some of them have.
Yeah, I mean it's true, right? I mean, there's some of them are they and what the one good part about Fiverr is there is like the rating and review type section that you can read, so you can see what other people have said about them, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So this is kind of a question that I really like. I've heard it in a lot of other podcasts, but I really like this question, and I want to ask you, if you had to start all over again from scratch, what would you do differently today?
I would definitely, and this is going to be a weird one that I bet no one said before. I went to Tony Robbins' business mastery course.
Oh, one of my bucket lists.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Well, then listen up. And I don't work for Tony. I don't get any affiliate, nothing like that. Like, I've always been a fan of Tony. There's a reason he's still top of his business, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was something I looked at doing 3 years ago. And as a Canadian, I'm sure you guys know, it was ridiculously expensive and something I couldn't afford as a new business owner. There was no way I could justify the money. It was like 15,000 Canadian.
Yeah.
And so I put it off. And every year I'd actually do a discovery call with the Tony Robbins people talking about it to see if maybe I would see if they could convince me to do it. And every time I'd be like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I made enough money last year that I thought, okay, I'm going to go. And I was super nervous about doing it. So for those that don't know what it is, it's 5 intensive days with Tony and a bunch of other business gurus, where you go like from 9 a.m. till 10 p.m. for 5 days straight. You live, breathe everything business for 5 days with, there's 2,500 people there from 62 different countries, everything from just starting a business, like just have an idea kind of thing, to multi-billionaires that are in the audience. So it's for every range of business owner. It doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum. And everybody was getting huge value out of it. And so I did the 5 days, and I was like, oh man, if I could rewind and tell myself to just go 3 years ago, I would have saved myself so much pain and so much agony, because it's like you go to business school for 5 days. I'm like 2 years of business school in 5 days. That's what it's like. If you don't know how to run a business and you find it all very overwhelming and not sure where to start or what's most important to start with and all that jazz, it's worth the money, because you're going to save so much on all these other programs that you probably will purchase trying to learn how to do it. Instead, you could go and know exactly what it is that you need to do for the next, like you get a long-term idea, but it's really about short-term when you're there. I'll go back I would say probably 2 years. Like, I'm going to do what I kind of set out in the program to do, and then go back and then revisit everything and do my goals and stuff like that. But I learned everything from accounting to marketing, all the newest of marketing, the technology that's coming out, where the everything's going. Like, you learn everything. And then you also, which is such a great thing, is you learn about the psychology of business, running your own business, which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Tony always says your biggest chokehold is you on your business. And so being able to identify what crap you're telling yourself, right? And to get that out of the way right off the get-go would be amazing. So even if you're new to it, I think like if you just want it all in one, like you just want to get it figured out as fast as possible, I would spend the money and just do it, because you're going to get that money back tenfold in the end. I really do think that, like, for sure.
Right.
So that's what I would do differently. That's what I would tell myself. Like, that would be like the one thing like where I did that just stands out in my head is, oh, I wish I would have done that years ago when I wanted to first do it. Right. And I was so nervous to do. And then I think the second thing is, don't get so caught up in, like what I was saying before, like don't get so caught up on all these little mundane things that I'm trying to do in the business to avoid what really needs to be done. Right? Like those things, yeah, they grow my business, but they're not making me the money in order to really grow my business. I was avoiding. So being really clear about what brings in my clients and what brings them results, and doing more of that. And which means that like putting yourself out there, that's a lot of what that is, right? Is doing the Facebook lives or doing the whatever it is, like the people that want to see it, right? The podcasting and things like that, where you're putting yourself out there instead of doing behind the scenes.
That's right. Did you say it was about 15,000 for the business thing for Canadian?
It's 10,000.
Wow. Plus,
and so by the time you put everything in, yeah, like your flight, your accommodation, it's always down in the States, right? It's at Palm Beach. Oh no, he does one in Las Vegas too, which would have been cheaper for me. But yeah, you're looking at, with the exchange rate and everything included in there, like your food and accommodation, you're probably closer to 15,000.
Wow. But like you said, worth every penny you're going to get that back tenfold. Yeah.
I mean, if you go and do what he tells you to do, for sure.
Right. Yeah. I guess, you got to stick to the lessons you learn.
You do. Yeah. You have to do the work.
That's right.
Yeah. But I came out of it going, I have no choice. I have to go do everything I just set out to do, because I just spent all that money.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. It's a good motivator.
It is. I was like, okay, I have to do this now. I just went to Tony Robbins. Got to do it. But yeah, it was very transformational. Even if you start with one of his smaller ones, I think it would be worth it, like the Unleash the Power Within or something, just to get an idea of what it's like and the power behind it. That one's like $1,000. It's life transforming, I've heard. Like I'll do that probably just to keep myself motivated, like do one a year or something like that. Right. But even there, it's a great starting place to see if you want to spend that kind of money, I think.
Is that the one in Vegas, or is that in Florida as well?
That one, Unleash the Power Within, goes everywhere. Like it's all over.
Okay.
He does a couple of them every year, like quite a few of them, I think, all throughout the United States and Europe and Australia and stuff. All
right, Mark. Well, we're going to have to look at that.
Yeah, and they will always run a 2-for-1 on Unleash the Power Within. So at some point, so just like sign up for newsletters or, search them out on Facebook, and then you'll get hit with the ads all the time.
Yep.
And then you'll see when the deals come up, and then you can pounce on it. But yeah, good place to start. But yeah, that would be my advice, and just taking action, doing the things that will build your following.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. That's I definitely agree. Tony Robbins is a master. I have his app and I use it daily. It's the best thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. His stuff works, right? Like you can't deny it.
He knows what he's talking about.
What he does.
Yeah.
And he came from nothing, which is also very inspiring to me. It was to hear him talk about him going through the times of bankruptcy, even though he was super popular speaker, because he didn't know how to run a business. He went bankrupt a couple of times, like where he wasn't making the money that people thought he was. And he had to learn how to grow a business and make money and be smart about his investing. And like, he takes you through it. And he did not come from, it wasn't easy. It was years and years and years of hardship for him.
Yeah. Like you said, you got to keep going. You can't let those kind of things stop you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think we're pretty much just about wrapping up the interview here, Karen. There was a lot of great information, so I want to thank you so much for your time. But before we let you go, is there anything our viewers can look forward to from you in the future, and how can people get a hold of you?
Well, they can find me at KarenMartel.com. Pretty easy. My podcast and videocast is On Track with Karen Martel Nutrition. So if you're a female having problems losing weight, then you're going to want to go check it out. I have some pretty exciting speakers. There's stuff for guys too, actually. And some of it's really generic. But that's where you can find me. And in the future, you can just see more coming out, more excellent content coming out from me to help you, live a better life, and not just with weight loss. Like, I'm really into the self-development stuff, because I think that has to be a huge part of losing weight and getting your health back, is becoming a better person and becoming a happier person. And I'm really wanting to go down more of that road in the future. So you're going to see more of the self-development coincide with the weight loss stuff.
Well, yeah, that pretty much wraps up our interview. I have just one more bonus question for you. This is what we like to ask. What is one phrase or quote that keeps you motivated in your journey to success?
My success is inevitable.
There you go.
Which I have to say, I'm stealing from Jill Stanton, I think your last name is, from Screw the 9 to 5 podcast. So I'm not going to take credit for it. And you guys can go listen to her podcast, because her and her husband are excellent.
Oh, we will for sure.
Second to this one, of course.
That's right. That's right.
Well, thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much, Karen. This has been an absolute, it's just by far our best podcast so far. So much good information.
Good. Awesome.
We'd love to have you back sometime in the future, just to kind of catch up and maybe talk some more health and wealth. And if you would love to, we'd love to have you back here again.
Anytime, guys. Love it.
Thank you again so much.
Thank you.
Definitely learned a lot. It was awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you to another amazing guest, Karen Martel. So amazing that we had to make this a two-parter.
Absolutely. I can't believe the stuff that we spoke about. It was absolutely mind-blowing. Part 1 was so cool with all the health. I absolutely love that stuff. Part 2 with all the business. I mean, we just covered it all. I really loved it. Make sure you check out Karen's website. So go to KarenMartel.com. That's KarenMartel.com, where you can read her blog, listen to the On Track with Karen Martel Nutrition podcast, and learn more about her one-on-one coaching and group coaching. So she's currently offering a 7-day free trial for her group coaching. So, I mean, you don't want to miss out on that. Go check it out. So our first month giveaway is officially over. Thank you, everybody that subscribed and everybody that entered. I want to say a big congratulations to our winner. We can't announce that winner at the moment because we pre-record these intros, so the draw is actually tomorrow. But congratulations to that person. We'll give you a shout out on our next episode next week.
Absolutely. And if you guys liked our content, make sure to drop us a like, rate, subscribe, whatever platform, whatever it might be on the platform you're listening from. And also leave us a comment for any suggestions that you might have for a future episode, or even just stop by to say hello. We really enjoy all the feedback you guys have been giving us. We really enjoy talking with you guys. So we appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you. And we'll catch you on the next episode.
Absolutely. And you don't want to miss next episode. We have a really good guest. If you saw my video on Facebook this week, I made a little bit of a teaser, a little bit of an announcement. So check that out. Don't want to miss it. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Project Podcast. Visit our website at thewealthprojectpodcast.com. See you next episode.